Hello and welcome back to the How to Grow Your E-commerce Business podcast. This episode is sponsored by Fabrikator, the inventory planning system, and I'm here with the CEO, Bahadir. So Bahadir, would you like to start off by telling us about your company and how you got the idea for it?
Hi, Trevor. It's great talking to you today, and greetings to everyone from Berlin, Germany. My name is Bahadir, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Fabrikatör. We're building a modern, easy-to-use inventory planning software for online stores with growth ambition. And currently, we work with direct-to-consumer brands all around the world, but dominantly in the US and Europe. We do have some clients in Australia and New Zealand, which we really love and growing on that market as well. They use Fabrikatör for accurately forecasting their demand, planning, and executing their purchase orders, which is a big part of the DTC operations. And I'm coming from digital product backgrounds, and I always enjoyed solving complex problems, complex business problems. And e-commerce supply chain is definitely a satisfying domain to work in terms of the complexity and the problems that it actually presents us. So yeah, here I am working with the DTC brands on their supply chain challenges.
Okay, so first off, let's start from basics. What do you mean by D2C?
Well, D2C, by the book definition, is a business who skips the middleman and sells directly to consumer. The term was first coined around the dot-com bubble, but since then it obviously transformed into different forms where the popularity of the term actually increased once again with the VC-backed D2C businesses like Casper between 2014-2020. And after the COVID, the VC hype for D2C started to go down as the whole world focused on building more profitable businesses, while the VC-backed D2C model was not really designed for profitability. And I think we all see it together in the market nowadays. So now coming back to our own reality today, the D2C brands we work with are the ones who owns the brand, product designs, and innovation. They also own the primary sales channel. When I say primary sales channel, you must be thinking about Shopify because it became the platform for D2Cs to sell without going to Amazon, Walmart, or other marketplaces as a middleman. But this also changed drastically after 2020. D2C doesn't mean only your .com website anymore. It is the omni-channel, which includes Amazon and other marketplaces, could be a physical store as well. So today when I say D2C, I find myself often referring to digitally native brands who may or may not expand it into physical or marketplace channels. So sorry if this was a bit longer than expected, but I'm really geeky about the D2C.
That's fine. So what do you mean? What is inventory planning, and how's that implemented in your tool?
Inventory planning has a lot of complexities for D2C brands, unfortunately. And I have calls with brand founders and operators on a daily basis where I met hundreds of them over the course of time. And when we talk about their challenges, I often find the following, like not knowing what's happening in their inventory is the first problem. And naturally, they're left in dark about the inventory decisions. If they don't know what's going on, they always have to make a ballpark estimation or based on their gut feeling, how they're going to go with the inventory and supply chain. So although the supply chain might have seen as the unsexy part of the business, if I may say, it is the fuel of your engine and it supplies the products that you sell. And without a good engine, you can only go so far. You can only go so fast. So coming back to your questions, actually inventory planning starts with analytics. It's the first step to understand your inventory segments based on their performance. It should surface the underlying risks and opportunities. And a good inventory analytics software should already tell you what needs attention, and it should leave breadcrumbs leading you to the most beneficial solution for your business. It's kind of like a decision support system. Go ahead, please.
At what point? So obviously you've got and I'm just going to forgive my simplicity here, right? So someone has to make the products getting made, and then they get shipped, and then they go into a warehouse, and then they go to the customer. I don't know if I've missed out any stages there, but bear with me. At what point does your system kick in, and how much of that process do you cover?
We are mostly a back office tool. So what we usually do is helping the operations manager or the founders of the brand to decide which products to source, when, and how many items. So we make sure that they always have the right amount of inventory. Our story starts with the communication, with the planning, continues with the communication with the supplier, where you can send purchase orders from our system to your suppliers, and it continues until the products are shipped from the supplier's warehouse to your warehouse and you start selling. And the cycle goes like this. One unique piece that we inject ourselves, mostly back office tools don't do it, or ERPs like planning tools, you don't expect them to promise you to grow revenue. But what we do is actually we inject ourselves on Shopify storefront as well, because we know what's incoming. And whenever you're out of stock, we change your storefront to take pre-orders or back orders to make sure that you keep selling under any condition. So that's why the Fabrikator is very difficult to put into very well-known like baskets. It's not an ERP, it's not only an inventory planning solution, but it's more like a virtual head of operations who's pushing your company to grow with the right decisions.
So so you don't get involved in the kind of, because I know your company's called Fabrikator. I think, to begin with, it was all about the actual manufacture products. You don't do anything to do with the manufacturing anymore.
Not today, but if we have an interesting story, I can take you a couple of steps back and give you a glimpse of our founding story as well. Actually, back in 2018, we built Fabrikator as a manufacturing planning solution for suppliers. We served hundreds of apparel suppliers and solved their raw material planning problem. We had a group of customers who were always coming with questions and feature requests that sounded very different than the traditional manufacturers that we used to work with. And the questions were more about like, how do we account for future growth in our plans? How can we bring our marketing schedule into manufacturing plans? Well, we want to split our budget between inventory and marketing. I was like, I've never heard such questions from other manufacturers. And I decided to go more into detail with these customers, invited them for a meeting. And it was actually the first time I met with the term D2C. So those were the customers who buy raw materials, design, produce their own products, sell through their online store. And like I was super excited. So by taking that opportunity into account, we made a pivot in 2020 where we stopped planning raw materials and focused only on finished goods, which is what most of the DTCs are doing today. So that's our history with the raw material and manufacturing planning. We kept our name as Fabrikator because it resonated very well with the European market. Everyone loved it. And having the in the name is kind of adding this like European edge into it, which people seem to like.
Okay. So what are the specific requirements of D2C companies over like a traditional manufacturer?
Requirements for them to be our customer or in general?
No, just in because you're a specific D2C tool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're I suppose, how would if you're a retailer, just buying other people's products, you're still going to have the same issues with buying products and have the right amount in. What are the differences between the two?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, if you're a retailer buying already branded products, selling through marketplaces or your own store, you will have a very short lead time because you're not involved in the manufacturing process. If you're selling Nike shoes on some platform, you will be buying it from a wholesaler. Probably will have a week of a lead time, maybe even shorter. But if you are producing your own branded shoes, it will take months. So lead time is the biggest difference between D2C and the traditional retailer who's selling multiple brands. And actually that lead time is creating a tremendous gap between your supply plans and demand generation plans, because $1 that you spend today on your performance marketing will show you some results immediately. If not today, maybe tomorrow, but immediately. On the other hand, the $1 that you spend in your inventory, in your supply chain, will only become effective months later when the lead time is completed. So while you're trying to make your business plans, your marketing plans are here, but your inventory plans are there. There is a gap of lead time between. And you're trying to answer the question like, all right, if we invest this much in inventory right now, how much money we will have left for marketing, then we can bridge this gap until the next inventory arrived so we can accumulate more cash. So this is the biggest difference between D2C and traditional retailer. And that's what we are trying to do, bridge that gap, bring more visibility into their plans so they can align their marketing and supply plans together.
So how complicated is the maths behind this? Is it can it get very complicated?
I'm glad I'm not the one who built it. So my co-founder and our amazing engineering team is working on it. The math is somehow complicated because there are a couple of different ways of doing it. You can do a very simple average calculation, look at like how much you sold in the last month and use it for projecting for the next month. But how about seasonality? How about out of stock days that you had in the past? Like all of these should be accounted for. And when you start doing this, you go deeper and deeper into it, it becomes a multi-layered calculation process, which we do it in the backend. Although it is very complex, we handle all the complexity in the backend and just present you with a very easy to use front end, which focuses on the upside of taking an action, like how much revenue you will make if you do this, how much you will lose if you don't do that. So yeah, leaving all the complexity behind. I think there are more interesting models out there as well, like the ones that works with the support of machine learning and AI, which we also utilize partly. But these systems, I always approach them with a little bit of questioning, because when we work with the brands, we see that they always want to understand how the calculation is being done. Just like your question, like how complex is it? Can I actually do it on my Excel sheet? And I want to understand what drives these suggestions, because it affects my cash flow. So the black box AI models spits out some results as a suggestion, but they're not able to give you an explanation like why the system suggested you this number. This is something that we approach very carefully, and we try to explain every single number suggested in our system with a reasoning and stay away from this like black box approach, because we need to work like the virtual head of operations, who you can explain things and answer your questions.
Okay, so I mean, do you feed in? Okay, so if presumably you feed back information into the system, how long things actually take? Because I mean, if the client, your customer said, look, our lead time is 5 weeks, do you actually record what you record actually took 4 weeks, or it actually took 7 weeks? And is that how you do it, or?
Yeah, the initial data collection is very easy for us. So once they install the app, we look at the historical sales through their Amazon account. This happens in less than an hour that we complete our initial analysis. And then we start collecting data from the user themselves, like the purchase orders. What do they have as an open purchase order? What is the estimated arrival date? And there's always a delta between the estimated arrival and the actual arrival. We take that into account as well. And we are able to calculate the average lead time of the supplier. So there's always a difference between the perception and reality. And we try to give it a kind of like a wake-up call, like, all right, you keep saying that this supplier delivers in 60 days, but the historical data says like it's actually 90. So be careful with this, because you may not notice what's going on with the heat of day-to-day operation. So we do that. And the speed of collecting information depends highly on how frequent the user is interacting with the system.
Okay, so can you give me some examples of kind of best practices? Maybe, I don't know, it's probably got loads of them. Can you give me like 5 best practices that D2C companies should implement today to improve their efficiency?
Yeah. Well, I don't believe in best practices in inventory, but I also don't think there's a magic solution to make your problems go away, but I can give a couple of hints about where to start from.
Good.
So if you're dealing with out of stock, the first thing you should do, I always think about it like you're bleeding revenue, and you have to put pressure on that bleeding to stop it first. And putting pressure here for us is taking back orders. You cannot do anything immediate about your out of stock products. You will still need to wait for the lead time. But if you can take back orders, you can actually cushion the fall of revenue while you're figuring out how your next purchase order should look like. So this is the emergency action you should take. And the second step is obviously looking into your data, like what happened there, why you went out of stock. Was it simply you did a miscalculation in your estimations, or did something amazing happen, like a celebrity maybe mentioned your brand and your sales spiked and you didn't know about this? So identify the reasons behind, and then if these are the things that can repeat in the future, try to plan accordingly for those, but first go back and do kind of like a post-mortem analysis. If you're dealing with overstock, which is almost equally as dangerous as out of stock, you have to identify dead stock and slow-moving inventory. Check your margins, push these products out either by offering discount, pushing them to clearance section, or if you don't want your brand to be known with discounts, you can also move these products to a long-term storage, because keeping them in your fulfillment center will cost you more money, and you can reintroduce them in the next season if this is something that you can do. Obviously, there are some products. I've seen one customer selling like iPhone cases, and they had a bunch of iPhone 11 and 12 cases. You cannot do much about them, but recycling is always a good option. So which can also add a sustainability point to your brand as well. So identifying overstock is the first step here. And you can do this. Start with your Shopify reports. If it's not helpful, you can employ a software to do it for you. The last bit is about overall inventory health. Are you able to track your inventory health? Do you have an idea about your turnover rate? How long it takes you to finish one batch of product? Do you know your return rates? And we are talking about inventory and supply chain, but it actually touches every bit of your customer experience as well. Can you pull revenue and return rate per supplier? Maybe one supplier has a higher return rate than the other. There might be a quality issue. Of course, you should have checked those way before that you have received the inventory, but still, sometimes things that you have missed might be noticed by the customer, and that might be causing the return. So that's why in Fabrikator, we create these reports to give you different angles of your business and inventory data, like return rate per supplier, per category, per style, per size. There might be a problem with your sizing chart, for example, like smalls are being returned more than mediums. There might be a sizing issue for the market that you're working with. So understanding it from a holistic point is what I can suggest. And one bonus point, inventory planning without involving your marketing people doesn't work. Bring in your marketing people, because they are the ones who drive traffic to your websites, understand the dynamics over there, and merge these two powerful business units to make the right decision. Inform them about the incoming purchase orders. Maybe they can launch a campaign earlier. Maybe you can sell them on pre-order again. So yeah, don't build silos, make people work together. And if you can find a software that can actually facilitate that, do it, because it worth the time, effort, and the loss opportunity that you're recovering.
So what sets your software apart from other similar solutions?
I would say first thing I see is, like in the reviews on our Shopify App Store page, they always mention ease of use, because supply chain can be also advertised as the boogeyman. Like you need to really have a PhD in supply chain to understand what you're doing. And there's certainly a jargon and terminology that creates that complexity. But our mission is to break that complexity, turn it into something simple, easy to understand, and help operators to do what they need to do. And so ease of use, I think, is the first thing. We are lucky because our team is coming from the background of building digital products for the SME market, solving complex problems. So they always look at the very fine detail of the user experience. The second thing is the growth focus. As I said, we're not only a back office tool, unlike other forecasting and planning tools, but we actually care about your revenue, and we provide you with the tools to increase your revenue. Like, I don't know how many inventory solutions out there which has an integration with Klaviyo. Like, as a domain, it doesn't ring a bell. Like, why would my purchase orders be connected to Klaviyo? But that's what we do. We connect POs to Klaviyo. So whenever there's a delay in your supply chain, you can actually inform your customers about the delay. If someone placed a pre-order, you can trigger a Klaviyo workflow to inform them about the making of the product. Share the story with them so that waiting time will not be boring for your customers, and you will engage them. So this is what we do with the growth focus, and I think it's the most important aspect that we do differently than other solutions out there.
Okay. So can you give me some examples of how you've helped customers to grow their businesses and become more efficient?
Sure, happily. This is one of my favorite brands. It's called Swirls, an amazing brand from New York, selling sweatpants overalls with a very lean team structure. And actually, you can see their video on our homepage on our app store as well. The founder, Kyle, told me that he used to spend 2 to 3 hours per week crunching Excel sheets to figure out their inventory. And now it only takes him to 10 minutes every Monday going through our open to buy report and creating purchase orders within seconds. And another brand is called 𝒂𝒏. It's from Finland. They're selling high quality footwear. They did not only leverage our planning features, but also got the most out of our backorder feature to fill the revenue gap when they run out of stock. So I think these two brands have used the most core features of Fabrikator and helping their growth. And you can find their case studies on our website as well.
Excellent. So I've got a question about lead times now. What are the best ways to reduce lead times?
So there's the part of the lead time that you cannot really change. It's the manufacturing duration, like how long it takes your supplier to produce these products. It also depends on their raw material stock. So once you go into that part, it always gets a little bit messy if you are not experienced in supply chain. If you want to work with the supplier to shorten the lead time, it's always a good idea to take a flight, go wherever they are and work with them and understand how the manufacturing process is going on. Sometimes making innovation in your product design or packaging design can actually reduce the lead time, because when you're behind your computer, you don't know what kind of a complexity you're creating on the manufacturer side with the design that you have. So you can also look at those together head to head. But then there's the part that you can change, which is the freight method, right? So you can decide to ship via air, ocean, rail, road, different options. And of course, the fastest one is the most expensive one. So one feature we have in Fabrikator is called freight planner. So when you're creating a PO with some products that are going to be out of stock sooner than others, we give you a suggestion like, all right, don't ship everything via air because this is going to be costly. Ship the part of the products with sea, ocean freight, and the rest with air. The products you ship with air will last enough until the other half that is coming with the ship will arrive in your warehouse. So we're bridging these gaps with the most cost-effective way possible. It's shortening the lead time, not really shortening the overall lead time, but shortening it just enough to bridge the gap and do not expose you to a very high cost of air shipping. So these are the two things that comes to my mind about shortening lead times.
So, okay, that leads me to another point. I mean, what are the insights? Obviously, your software produces lots of reports. What do you think are the most important insights that it gives, the most helpful insights it gives to customers?
Potential revenue loss. This is a scary one. So whenever I show this to customers, they're like, really? Are we going to lose that much of revenue if we don't take an action now? It's alarming. I know they hate it when they see it, but
they hate it and they love it.
Yeah, it's what moves people into the right direction.
Okay. So how do you see look into the future. Right, what do you think of the major trends in? Well, actually, okay. Tell me about what do you think of the major trends in e-commerce? What do you think of the major trends in DTC and also in your space?
Yeah, I can start with our solution first. Like as I said, DTC is always changing, and we have to adapt. So before it was Shopify only, and now it's omnichannel. We're working on bringing multi-warehouse planning, multiple stores, multiple sales channels. And we're bringing in integrations like Amazon and WMS as well. So this will make Fabrikator a complete set for anyone looking to expand to different countries and channels. That's what's on our roadmap for this year. And on the other hand, we have one feature that is in beta. It's about long-term planning, where they can forecast demand, add marketing plans, invite their colleagues, work on it like a financial plan, adjust it together, commit to the plan, set it as a goal within the software, and then execute towards that. Because with the heat of the moment, they always forget, like, what was our target for this month? Did we hit it or not? So it could be also a survival game nowadays with the market being a little bit harsh. So tracking the goals is very important for us. And that's one thing we opened up as a beta. if anyone listening to this right now feeling excited about it, just ping us and we will introduce you to that feature that's currently in beta. On a larger scheme, like what's happening in the market is a trend. I really like solutions like Shopify Collective. I don't know if you heard about it, but where brands are able to sell other brands' products in their stores is a great growth opportunity. It's kind of like a collaboration.
Is it a drop shipping thing?
It is sort of drop shipping, but you list another brand's product just as it is your own in your catalog. It could be a complementary product, like if you're selling sunscreen, another brand is selling a hat, just combining them together and selling them. In this way is a great way to do it. And still, they ship it. So in that sense, it's similar to drop shipping. So it's kind of like an intra marketplace within Shopify. I think not many merchants know about it. I've not even sure if it's available in Europe yet, but I've seen American customers are using it heavily in very good use cases. Yeah, another piece I want to mention, just one last bit I want to mention is the generative AI. It will play a huge role in analyzing inventory in the simple terms, and it will lower the barrier of entry for merchants who don't have a background in supply chain. Like nowadays, we fill this gap by taking calls, helping them, sometimes mentoring them. But actually, generative AI, like GPT kind of solutions, can answer questions with a human-like prompts, like what do I need to restock now? What is incoming inventory? And Shopify already has it as a sidekick within the platform, not doing it for inventory, but for in-store operations. But I think this will be a huge driver of innovation in the next couple of months, I would like to say, because now it's not even years.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I think it's extraordinary the kind of stuff that this AI can do. Though I do think that people are beginning to rely too much on it. Getting back to your point earlier, if you don't understand how these things work, then you rely on it too much, and when it kicks out a stupid number, you can't really tell if it's stupid or not. And if it's I was listening to a podcast the other day. It was telling a story about how a plane fell out of the sky because of this once. Whereas another, it was your kind of thing. I mean, sometimes they can just come up with ridiculous. These systems can come up with ridiculous figures if you don't understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
I've got one more question for you, because I like to ask a little fluffy question at the end, just to ask what you do when you're not actually thinking about inventory management. What gets you excited?
Yeah, so it's very busy nowadays. I feel like I'm not dedicating enough time to other stuff as much, but I recently started to collect old vinyls from 80s pop rock genre, and I'm very lucky to be in Berlin because we have flea markets and great record stores to spend a Sunday getting lost between the old tunes.
So what's your latest find?
I found one 𝒂𝒐𝒊𝒏 and
The Smiths.
and also one Kate Bush. So I'm going after the Cure vinyl now.
Excellent. Well, that's great. That's great. That's my era. Excellent. Bahadir, can you tell us where people can find you online?
All right. So I'm quite active on LinkedIn. If you search for Fabrikator with K, and if you search for Bahadir Efeoglu, I'll be very happy to connect with you guys. Even if you're not thinking about inventory planning, even if you're just curious about what's out there in the market, or just chat about the things that we have mentioned. Yeah, I have a link in my profile. You can book me for a coffee chat. And yeah, we can just be e-commerce friends.
I'll obviously put a link in the show notes about to your company. Super. Well, it's been very interesting talking to you. Thanks very much.
Likewise. Thank you very much, Trevor. And thanks everyone tuning in.